Another day, another conversation about Montreal Canadiens trade rumors. Today's video is going over a name that we've talked about a few times. I don't want to make it seem like we've totally ignored this player in trade rumor discussion, but he is re-entering the frame once more, and the source here comes to us from the folks over on Montreal Hockey Now. Take a look at this article published on August 10th, 2022 by Jamie Murphy. An NHL source says that they're hearing Jake Allen more. The Stars or the Coyotes make sense. Before we go over the article and discuss what they have to say about Jake Allen, Montreal Canadiens goaltender, let's go over the profile here first and foremost. Allen is 32 years old, 6'2", 190 as a left-handed catching goaltender, making $2.875 million a season for one more year. He's on a 2-year contract that sees him making this amount of money per season, and back when this contract was signed in the offseason of 2021, a lot of Canadiens fans said, hey, this is a pretty good deal, all things considered. You had yourselves Jake Allen, whom you acquired from the St. Louis Blues, who was not all too bad, all things considered, and who actually showed off very well for the Blues in his last season there, posting up a .927 save percentage in 24 games and a .935 save percentage in 5 games in the playoffs. That was against the Vancouver Canucks, and he actually was very, very good. He got sent over to Montreal. He was the backup to Carey Price. He didn't play a single game as the team went to the Stanley Cup Finals, but that's okay, because when he was playing, he was good enough to make a few desperation saves here and there. And it's kind of unfortunate because Allen, with everything in mind, I feel like he did get the short end of the stick a lot of the time, because the Canadiens just weren't really a good team in 2021-2022, wherein Allen had a .905 save percentage and a .330 goals against average. It's kind of funny how his save percentages from 21 to 22 were pretty similar, but the goals against varied quite heavily, and I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that the Canadiens this previous season were just a lot worse than the season when they went to the finals. But I think most Canadiens fans can go out there and say that Jake Allen, if you just take a look at the big picture, is a good goaltender. Don't let the record go out there and fool you. Sure, he went 9-20-4, but this guy's a lot better than that. He had 2 shutouts in the 9 wins that he had as well, which is pretty nice to see. But Jake Allen is entering the trade conversation once again, because according to this NHL source that told Montreal Hockey Now all of this information, both teams, the Arizona Coyotes and the Dallas Stars, have inquired about acquiring the Canadiens goalie on the trade market before. And this source also opined that it could make a ton of sense for both of these teams to do so once Carey Price's situation becomes clearer. I'm hearing Jake Allen more. The Stars or the Coyotes both make sense. Both teams have looked into him in the past. I know that, the source told Montreal Hockey Now late Wednesday afternoon. Depending on what happens with Price, it could make a lot of sense for them and the Canadiens. Let's say Carey's good to go or close to by the time the season starts. Then, what if Jake Oettinger hasn't been signed by then, or he's holding out during camp? Are you taking the chance on Scott Wedgwood and a call-up as your goalies to start this season if you think you're a contender this year? Now, obviously, this section of the piece is going over the Dallas Stars and the situation they have with Jake Oettinger. Just for a little news flash, if you're not aware, Jake Oettinger was a pretty okay goalie for the majority of his time he had spent in the Dallas Stars system. He was a pretty stable 1A-ish caliber guy that wasn't the best, but he could go out there and get the job done. All of that changed, though, when he went out in the 7-game series against the Calgary Flames, and he had probably one of the best 7-game performances by any goaltender in the Cap era, especially in a losing effort against that Flames team. Oettinger was just an absolute monster, and now you have a contract negotiation process that has one side saying, hey, you've been pretty subpar this entire time, we can't pay you like a number 1 goaltender because of one 7-game stint you had in the playoffs, and then the opposing argument is, hey, I had a 7-game stint in the playoffs that was so astronomically good, give me more money. Man, if he wasn't that good against Calgary in the first series of the postseason, then we wouldn't be having this conversation here. He would have been re-signed by now. It's just, hey, you take every opportunity you can to get the bag, and I definitely don't fault Jake Oettinger for doing that. But this NHL source is saying that if Oettinger cannot get re-signed, the Dallas Stars might actually have themselves a pretty good motivation to find a trade with Jake Allen and make sure that goes through. Let's go over onto what else the article says about the Arizona Coyotes. Obviously, the Coyotes have no aspirations to be a playoff contender this coming season, but right now, they only have 26-year-old goalie Karel Vejmelka on their roster. The Oats need another goalie, and honestly, they want to be as competitive as they can to create and keep a buzz around them, the source pointed out. The article then says that the Coyotes have a ton of cap space, and as a result, they probably could go out there and acquire a guy like Jake Allen. The Stars also have a boatload of cap space too. Even if they re-sign Ottinger, they could afford to get Jake Allen because he's only making $2.8 million. The article then ends off by going over Allen's comments from August the 2nd on Canadiens.com. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good on the ice. I've been on the ice probably 20 times so far, so I feel like I've skated a lot. When I had the groin injury at the end of the year, I wanted to get my feet back on the ice early, and now I'm ready to rock. I'm looking forward to getting back to Montreal later this month, and then settling in before camp. The summer has been fast, but it's been really good and efficient for me. And so even though both of these teams, the Dallas Stars and the Arizona Coyotes, are different teams, Dallas is really trying to push one more time to make a playoff run, and you have Arizona on the other hand that's just kind of a bottom feeder, rebuilding team, trying to get Connor Bedard, trying to impress the fans at their Arizona State University arena. There's a lot of similarity here in terms of how they could approach their goaltending situations. For Arizona, you just have a lack of goaltending in general. Vejmelka by himself, unfortunately, is not going to be enough. Meanwhile, on the Dallas Stars end, you don't have the guarantee that Jake Ottinger is going to start right now, so as a result, it's a lot easier to say, okay, let's just try to prepare for the worst-case scenario. We see some sort of a Jake Ottinger, William Nylander-esque holdout, where the guy doesn't re-sign until, like, December because he wants to get the bag. And so, for Montreal, all you gotta do is sit back and say, hey, let's just wait it out. Let's see what either of these two teams, Arizona or Dallas, would want to do before we go out there and start shopping Jake Allen away. Furthermore, you have to be super comfortable with what Carey Price is going to offer next season as well, because if you don't have Carey Price in the system and you trade Allen away at the same time, what the heck are you going to do? Montembeault and Primo? Like, oh boy, that is not going to work in the slightest. You have to have at least one of a good Carey Price or Jake Allen in net, I feel. If you're Montreal starting out the 22-23 season, you cannot afford to lose out on both of these guys. Now, Carey Price, I know we've been kind of chronicling his story the past few months here, and we've been saying he's been getting better, which is good to see, but it's not set in stone just yet. So for Carey Price and the Montreal Canadiens, he's really got to go out there and be the prerequisite to any sort of Jake Allen trade, because it has to be confirmed that Price is going to be able to suit up and take over the load while Allen is gone. It's not that I don't believe in Montembeault and Primo. Okay, I kind of don't really believe in Primo all too much. I do think that he's got a little bit more developing to do, but then again, we've been saying the same thing for the past few years. Montembeault, though, was not terrible in the short time he had here in Montreal so far, so I definitely do think that there is some more cushioning with the goaltending in Montreal than there is in the other situations here in Dallas and Arizona, but at the same time, I can understand what exactly it is leading to any conversations about an Allen trade in this respect. But talk to me in the comments as well, what do you think Jake Allen should fetch on the trade block should he get sent over to either Dallas or Arizona? You gotta think that Montreal could use some bargaining power here because they have the goalie and the other teams don't have the goalie, so it's easy for Montreal to say, hey, we have the asset that you need, here, give us some more stuff, like a second or another third or another prospect or whatever. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to what Jake Allen should fetch on the trade market. In my opinion, I'm kind of thinking something in the second round territory, if not second and a third, maybe just one good prospect in general. I don't think that Jake Allen should be the most valuable guy in the world, especially since he is in his early 30s and expiring on 1 year left. But if all you're looking for is stability on the back end, a guy that could be a 1B fringe starter type of player, Jake Allen is not a bad choice. So Canadiens fans, Coyotes fans, Dallas Stars fans, talk in the comments your thoughts about the idea of a Jake Allen trade, what it is that you feel this guy could go for, what it is you feel the Canadiens could get in return, and if you're a fan of any of the desert teams, Dallas or Arizona, what would you feel comfortable in giving up in a Jake Allen trade in general? Or do you even want to make a Jake Allen trade? Do you want to just go out there and suck it up if you're an Arizona fan, say, hey, screw it, Vejmelka's our guy, let's just lose out on a whole bunch of games because we're going to call up some guys from Tucson? Or if you're a Dallas Stars fan, okay, no, sorry, I'm confident that Jake Ottinger is going to resign. No need to trade for Allen. We're good over here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.